Imagine waking up one day and realizing the fundamental operating system of global commerce, literally the way we make, move, and consume everything, has just received a massive, unavoidable upgrade. Today, we're doing an explainer on Circularity 3.0, the 2026 operational shift. Now, this isn't some pie-in-the-sky, distant utopian vision. This is a hard, fast-approaching reality that is going to redefine how businesses and supply chains function worldwide. The way the world does business is about to change forever. So you might be wondering, why exactly is our global economy scheduled for an upgrade in 2026? Well, think of our current global supply chain as, legacy software. It's been running on this take, make, waste linear model for centuries. It's buggy, it's inefficient, and quite frankly, it's crashing the hardware, meaning our planet's resources. What we're approaching in 2026 is a mandatory macroeconomic software update. We are finally moving away from theoretical sustainability and isolated green initiatives right into the hardwired everyday practice of global trade. If you aren't prepared to install this update, your business model might just become obsolete.
Here's a quick look at the roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll cover the leap to Circularity 3.0. Second, the evolution of the circular economy. Third, why 2026 is the catalyst. Fourth, operationalizing the circular shift. And fifth, preparing for the new standard.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the leap to Circularity 3.0, upgrading the global supply chain. So what exactly is this? Well, an operational circularity economy is a systemic, macroeconomic shift where sustainability moves way beyond pilot programs into the core, embedded standard of global supply chain operations. We're talking about moving way past those cute, isolated programs or one-off product lines. Circularity 3.0 means sustainability is no longer just a side project managed by a PR team. It literally becomes the standard. It's how the procurement team buys, it's how the factory floor manufactures, it's how the logistics network ships. It's a total paradigm shift from an optional initiative to an operational absolute. Moving on to Section 2, the evolution of the circular economy, shifting from theory to action. If we look back at the timeline, the pre-2010s era was what we'd call Circularity 1.0, basically theoretical awareness. Academics and early pioneers were sounding the alarm, saying, hey, we can't just keep throwing things in landfills forever. But it was mostly confined to textbooks. Then came the period we're just now exiting, the 2010s to 2025, or Circularity 2.0. This has really been the era of commitments and pilot programs. Companies started making big pledges, setting net zero targets for 2050, launching small-scale recycling initiatives to show they cared. It was well-intentioned, sure, but super fragmented. Which brings us to 2026 and beyond, Circularity 3.0, the operational shift. The runway for promises has essentially ended, and the era of execution begins. This brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast between the two. Circularity 2.0 basically lived in the boardroom. It was driven by ESG goals and relied heavily on isolated pilot programs. I mean, it looked fantastic in an annual report. Circularity 3.0, on the other hand, lives on the factory floor and in the warehouse. It's about actual supply chain operations, embedded standards across the entire product lifecycle, and real systemic fixes. It's the difference between promising to build a better engine and actually driving the car off the lot with that new engine purring under the hood.
When you break it down, the biggest difference between version 2.0 and 3.0 really comes down to the drivers. In the past, companies were motivated by PR and distant ESG goals set decades into the future. Now, the drivers are completely immediate: 2026 mandates and hard economics. As raw materials become significantly more expensive, circularity isn't just good public relations anymore, it's financial survival. The core action shifts from theoretical sustainability that looks great on paper to applied, scaled operations that actually move the needle on a global level.
Section 3, why 2026 is the catalyst. We are reaching the tipping point. 2026. This is a year I really want etched into your mind. It's not just an arbitrary date picked out of a hat. We aren't just waving our hands and saying, sometime in the late 2020s. The year 2026 represents a climax of several converging forces that are going to absolutely force the hand of global industries. Let's take a look at exactly what those forces are. First up, resource scarcity is hitting a critical economic threshold. It's simply becoming way too expensive to continuously extract virgin materials like copper, cobalt, or lithium from the earth. The math is failing. Next, we have the implementation of stringent global sustainability mandates. Governments and international bodies are rolling out strict regulations right around 2026.
Think digital product passports and extended producer responsibility laws. If you don't comply, you're looking at heavy fines or being locked out of markets entirely. Finally, technological readiness. We finally have the AI, the blockchain tracking, and the materials science needed to scale circular supply chains efficiently. When you combine crippling resource costs, strict government mandates, and the technology to actually solve the problem, boom, 2026 becomes the undeniable catalyst.
All right, Section 4, operationalizing the circular shift. Let's get into how the mechanics actually work. Operationalizing this shift means you're designing products for immediate end-of-life recovery right out of the gate. You don't just build a product and cross your fingers hoping it gets recycled. You engineer it from day one so it can be easily disassembled and its parts reused. It also means replacing linear supply chains with closed-loop systems, where waste from one process automatically becomes the raw material for the next. And perhaps most importantly, scaling reverse logistics. Supply chains have traditionally been a one-way street, right? But now companies have to build networks to get those materials back, like electronics manufacturers actively retrieving old smartphones just to mine the internal components for new builds. Ultimately, this requires embedding circular metrics directly into daily operational KPIs. Your performance isn't just measured by how much you sold, but by how much material you successfully kept in the loop. At the end of the day, this is a systemic fix for impending resource crises. We absolutely have to stop viewing the circular economy as a philanthropic endeavor or some clever marketing strategy. It's an urgent, functional necessity to ensure that the global economy can actually continue to operate without running out of the very materials it needs to survive. It is simply a matter of pure operational resilience. Which brings us to Section 5, preparing for the new standard and what this actually means for you. So the crucial point to remember here is this. Circularity 3.0 is a massive operating system update for the global supply chain. Think about when your phone or your computer tells you there's a massive OS update. You might delay it for a day or two, hit remind me later, but eventually, if you don't install it, your apps stop working, the system crashes. Well, the global economy is pushing this update right now. The leaders of tomorrow are the ones who are downloading and installing the circular operating system today. They're actively retraining their teams, redesigning their products, and restructuring their logistics right as we speak. Which leaves us with one final, vital question. I want you to look at your own operations, your own industry, or even the companies you invest in. As the 2026 operational shift begins, is your supply chain ready for the upgrade? The transition from theory to standard practice is here, and the clock to 2026 is ticking. I really hope this explainer has given you the clarity and the structure you need to understand exactly what's coming. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep exploring, keep learning, and stay ready for the upgrade.